Hey there, as a Latter-day Lights listener, I want to give you a very special gift today. My brand new book, Faith to Stay. This book is filled with inspiring stories, powerful discoveries, and even fresh insights to help strengthen your faith during the storms of life. So, if you're looking to be inspired, uplifted, and spiritually recharged, just visit faithtostay.com. Now, let's get back to the show. Hey everyone, I'm Scott Brandley.
And I'm Alisha Coakley. Every member of the church has a story to share, one that can instill faith, invite growth, and inspire others.
On today's episode, we're going to hear how one author is merging the fiction and nonfiction parts of his world in a way that spreads the light of the gospel to all. Welcome to Latter-day Lights. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Latter-day Lights. We're so glad you're here with us today. And we're really excited to bring back one of our special guests, Mike House, to the show. Mike, welcome back, man.
Thanks for having me back. You're very brave.
We love collaborating with you, and I feel like we already did part of our podcast already, just in our
We did.
like our pre-show podcast. So no, we love it though. We love having you on and just picking your brain and hearing your insights and perspectives. It's always fun. So
Thank you.
Thanks for being open.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of fun things to talk about today, but before we get started, just give those who haven't had a chance to listen to your previous episode, tell a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. I remember, we talked 2.5 years ago, I think, for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was about 3 years into a semi-retirement from a professional career in corporate finance. And I was trying to live out my dream of being an author as well. And I was writing fiction, historical fiction, and on both the Bible and the Book of Mormon, and some fantasy and some science fiction, having a good time. And since then, things have changed quite a bit. I decided I'd do a little bit of nonfiction, and I decided I'd get more involved in LDSPMA, which you and I have talked about quite a bit at length as well. And that's Latter-day Saints in Publishing, Media, and the Arts, which is a 501c3. So it's nonprofit. And I'm completely new to the nonprofit space. And somehow over that intervening time, I started volunteering for them and doing some things. And then just the way the puzzle pieces shifted around, or the chess pieces on the board, I don't know if maybe they're puzzled chess pieces. They shifted around, and somehow I became president of LDSPMA. And boy, that's been challenging, but it's also been really interesting. And some of the people I'll mention a couple. Some of the people I get to talk to and that I get to meet are just fascinating people. And there's so many good people out there, both LDS and non-LDS. And I try to do that in my writing career as well, because I write some biblical historical fiction, and I try to talk to people who are not members of the church about that.
Right.
And we have some really interesting conversations there. So that's a little bit of the background, and still having a lot of fun, still writing. I have 12 books now. I'm about to release the 13th and the 14th in pretty short order. Wow. And then I'm working on a really fun one next that is going to be my first Christmas story. I said I'd do a Christmas story, and it's going to be called The Most Useless Man in the Apocalypse, a Christmas Story.
Okay, that just sounds on so many levels so intriguing.
It'll be fun. I've got most of the outline done for that one. It's going to be fun.
Nice. Is it, the title sounds comical. Is it a little more comical?
It won't be, it won't be slapstick comedy.
Right.
So it's like, remember the difference between, the best 2 years and what's the return, the RM?
The RM.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The RM was slapstick comedy, right?
Yes.
Really funny. But it had that was funny in a slapstick way. And then the best 2 years was hilarious, but it was also more serious situational type comedy, right?
Right.
Still hilarious. And so this one will be more, a more serious book. And it's a serious topic. We're talking about apocalyptic kinds of things, right? But it'll hopefully have enough humor in there to keep you entertained. So,
well, Can't wait. That sounds awesome. I mean, you got Christmas, you got the apocalypse, and you got people who are useless like that. How can you go wrong with
What's
those
not
two
to
topics?
like? And it is patterned. It is patterned after yours truly. Like I look out at the world and I see all these people like my dad who can fix anything, who can do anything. He was a mechanical engineer and also a mechanic. He could tear apart a car and put it back together. He could tear apart heavy equipment and put it back together. He can do electrical, he can do plumbing, everything. And I didn't really learn too much of that because I just wasn't interested. I was interested in all kinds of other things. And so I learned some things, but I look at some of the things other people can do and I'm like, man, I'm useless. When things go south, right? Or if things go south in our area, and I don't know what's going to happen, right? I'm not that useful. I mean, I can like take a wheelbarrow and a shovel and I can move dirt from spot A to spot B, and I'm pretty good at that. But that's kind of it.
Yeah. Well, when you and I get to the apocalypse, Mike, we're going to be in trouble because I could be like, hey, do you need help with your ratings and reviews? And you'll be like, hey, do you need help with your finances?
That's right.
I was going to say, so I've always theorized that if I make it to the apocalypse, especially the zombie apocalypse, I am going to be comic relief. I can give people haircuts.
Okay.
And I'm a really slow runner. So worst case scenario, I'll be baked. Right. Or like, I'll be the sacrifice, like everyone's got to get away. So let's run really fast and leave Alisha behind. And then, so there's a job for everyone. And this is number 14, 15. Which one will this be? 15?
The Christmas one would end up being number 15.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
I need to get to that 20 book club. So I'm still working on it. Right.
Yeah, you're like kicking them out like as fast as Brandon Sanderson, man.
It's crazy.
Not that fast because I do not have his staff, and I don't have full time to devote to it either.
How do you do it? How do you write books so quickly?
For real.
I don't know, actually. I mean, people ask me as well, do you get writer's block? And I think I used to a little bit, but once I kind of know where I'm going, it kind of flows, and you get better at things, right? As you do them more, you get better at them. And that's certainly true of this. My first few books were harder to write than my last few books. And so, I work out how the story is more or less going to go. And then I go, right? I start writing and it flows pretty well. And I think in part, I've just been blessed to be able to churn some of these out that have turned out really well. And I have a pretty high standard for what I think is good writing. So they have to be pretty good before I release them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun though. It's been a lot of fun.
So I have a question, and I know this isn't, I don't know. I guess we can talk about whatever we want to. So
yeah, I warned you that's how this was going to go, right? Because I'm in that kind of a mood. We're just going to talk about whatever.
So I've been to a lot of writers' conferences and had different book coaches and stuff. And it's interesting because I feel like every author really has their own way of doing things, right? Like
they do.
You have some people who just sit down, just pen to paper, and they just start writing.
Yep.
And they don't map anything out. Then you have others who are like meticulously outlining the whole thing before they even write the first sentence. Then you have others who they write the ending first, and then they try to get everything to go to the ending. Others start with the beginning. So what do you do when you're what's your process? I guess how do you?
That's interesting because it's been kind of a mix. Mostly, I do like to have a full outline done before I start writing, and so I pretty much know where it's going to go. There's always room for turns and twists, and even alternate endings sometimes too. As you go along, you just figure out, I was going to end it this way. Nope, that's not going to work anymore. Or this thing is going to work better, right? And so those things are just going to naturally happen as you over the course of the writing. I'll sometimes write with a little bit of an ending in mind, but normally, you have kind of an overall plot or something you want to achieve with it, or maybe a story or a message you want to share. And for me, a lot of times it's a message I want to share, right? There's certain things and that's just who I am, right?
Yeah.
In my nonfiction and in my fiction, and I've written mostly fiction, I am trying to spread the gospel. That's what I'm trying to do. Even in the science fiction or the fantasy, I'm trying to spread the gospel. And I can't get myself not to do that. All right. That's what I am. But I've had situations where, I'll do a full outline, but then I've had situations where I struggle with the outline. I'm like, I really don't know where this is going to go next. I just got to start writing it. And then I'll know where it's going to go. And that has happened to me as well. So I just start writing it and I get through that first part of the outline. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now I know where it's going to go next. And now I know where it's going to go next. So it's an interesting process, and it depends on the project and it depends on the goals sometimes of that project. So a lot of fun. The nonfiction one was interesting because I had started out with a thought, a premise that I got from another book. And our daughter had given me this book that she had intended to give our son, who's a U.S. Army captain. And he had already read it twice. And it was a book on business leadership, basically. But it was written by two ex-U.S. Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, called Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. And of course, that's right up my wheelhouse from my first career, which is in corporate finance, not personal finance, but corporate finance. And so I'd read lots of business management books and books on leadership and such. And she gave me that book and I read it and I was like, well, this is really interesting. You know what? The best book on leadership in the world is what?
I'd say the Book of Mormon. Yeah.
It's the Book of Mormon. That's the
I know some people say the Bible, but I feel like there's a lot more leadership examples in the Book of Mormon, like military, and you think of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so, for sure. Yeah. So to me, it's the Book of Mormon, right? That's the best book on leadership in the world. So why don't we write a similar sort of business management book, if you will, not really focused on business, but a leadership book focused on the Book of Mormon. And that's where intense stewardship models from the Book of Mormon came from. Is just those thoughts. And so I started thinking about, okay, who do I want to devote chapters to various people that we meet in the Book of Mormon. And I ended up wanting to include Joseph Smith Jr. as well. He's not an actor in the Book of Mormon, but he's mentioned in the Book of Mormon. Of course, he's the key person who brought the Book of Mormon to light for us, right? So there's a chapter on him, and then of course we've got some of the standbys that you would expect, like Nephi and Alma and Captain Moroni and Mormon. So you got a number of those, and then you also have people like Laconius, right? And then we try to talk a little bit about the women. We don't have enough or very much detail on some of the women, but I'd like to talk about that a little bit as well. And then I threw in a couple of bonus essays that were somewhat related, and I had my editor saying, well, I don't know if you should include those, but you know what? I wanted to, so I did.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds awesome. I mean,
it's a lot of fun to write. Yeah. And the goal was I wanted to just show people how critical the Book of Mormon is as a blueprint for good leadership in your individual life, in your family life, in your community life, everywhere. The Book of Mormon can help you be a leader in whatever sphere of influence you have.
That's cool. I'm going to have to pick that one up. That sounds awesome.
How long does it take you to typically write a book?
Well, I'm putting out probably 2 to 3 a year is what I'm doing. So about 6 months, roughly. And I usually have 2 or 3 going at the same time. And so then they just get staged, if you will.
That is incredibly talented. Incredibly talented. I know. I mean, Scott can do some books pretty fast too. You did like some of your business books really fast, right, Scott?
Yeah, this last one's been about 4 to 6 months. But
right.
Okay.
But I'm doing that at work all day. I'm like working on. I'm putting a lot of time into that book. So but you've got a lot of other things going on too.
I do, yeah. So I still
Yeah.
work part-time for a big company in Chicago. So I'm still doing the corporate finance stuff, and I'm doing, the president of LDSPMA stuff, which is
Mhm.
more than they told me it was going to be when they invited me to do that, which it's fine, but totally fine. But it's a little bit more work, and then lots of other things as well. But all
Well, and
good.
you're married,
Yeah, yeah. We
so
have
you have to do
grandkids,
those
and we're doing
things.
stuff with them, and
Yeah.
oh yeah,
I've always heard, if you want anything done, ask a busy person. Like ask
yeah.
the busiest person you know if you want something done. They'll get it done. They'll figure it out. I don't know how you do it, but you do it. Make it work. Wow. Well, cool. So, I mean, I don't really know how to segue from here to there, but let's just turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, one of the things I told you, there's some really interesting people I get to meet, and so sometimes I'll get these random emails, and I recently got a random email from another former member or former president of LDSPMA named Mariana Richardson, and she's been working with this professor at BYU Idaho named I wrote his name down so I wouldn't forget it, Medlir. It's an interesting first name, Medlir Mema. And he's a political science professor at BYU Idaho. And she said, "Hey, Medler here is working with," and I did a little more research afterward, and he's connected with Faith Matters. So you've heard of Faith Matters, and they're working on this. And I've got this pulled up here. They're working on something with regards to AI, and there's a lot of really interesting things going on with AI, right? And Faith Matters is doing something on November 4th and 5th in Provo, Utah, and they're calling it Organized Intelligence, Latter-day Saint Perspectives on AI. And they're going to do this conference, and they're going to talk about things like how might emerging AI technologies reshape societies over the long term? How could AI influence spiritual life, religious expression, and human divine relationships? In what ways can faith communities prepare for and engage with the disruptions AI may bring? And where are the most promising opportunities to apply AI for good? So they reached out to me saying, "Hey, do you know some people who we could contact, because we're putting together this conference, that are in the artistic space, right? In various different disciplines, right? So LDSPMA encompasses all kinds of artists, not just writers like me, but filmmakers and painters and musicians, composers, as such. So lots of different people, and AI is having an impact on all those different spaces, right? And so they wanted to talk to some people like that, and so I gave them some names. People like Stephen Lemon, who's he's the CEO of Haven Light, and they do mainly LDS but Christian themed art. And his mother is Liz Lemon Swindle, who did that famous painting for The Chosen. And so I gave him that name and a couple of other names. I gave him the name of Kristen Yee, who came and spoke at our conference last year, Sister Kristen Yee from the General Relief Society presidency. And she's an artist, right? And the church has I don't know what they call it. It's a working group in the church, an official permanent working group in the church that is devoted to how to deal with AI issues. And how the church is going to utilize AI and help its members understand AI, that sort of thing. So this is a really interesting topic. So I get fun emails like that, and then it gets me to thinking. And then coincidentally, I had just seen, and maybe you saw this as well, but last week, Elder Gong went to Turkey. And he was attending the Religions for Peace World Council in Istanbul. And he gave a talk called Faith, Ethics, and Human Dignity in an Age of Artificial Intelligence, a Call to Action. And he's been working with this church working group for a while now. And of course, he has some help when he writes talks like this. This talk was fairly technical in places, and in other places it wasn't. And so he obviously had some help on parts of it. But he really said some interesting things here. And I'll just read a small portion, if you don't mind, of what he said here. he said, I believe, so he's speaking to world religious leaders, Elder Gong, as an apostle of Jesus Christ. He said, I believe that we, as religious leaders, can take action on 3 fundamental AI issues now. First, we must be clear and help society understand that AI is not and cannot be God. There are people in society who believe that AI may become God. Many talk too glibly about AI becoming God or godlike AI. AI training data is sourced by humans. AI's moral and ethical principles are only those its creators consciously inject and align. Even if AI training changes, or if we achieve AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, or ASI, artificial superintelligence, we know that reasoning, even superhuman reasoning, has limitations. Man is not, and certainly divinity is not, defined solely by reasoning. No set of utilitarian AI algorithms should determine or speak for our most treasured human values and spiritual experiences. AI cannot provide inspired divine truth or independent moral guidance. Human benevolence, compassion, judgment, optimism, faith, that which speaks to and for our souls, requires lived experience and authentic relationships. And then he goes on and talks about how if we deify AI, we're trying to build the Tower of Babel. That sounds like a great analogy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a creation of God, man can create AI, but AI cannot create God. That was an interesting statement he made. And I'm skipping a little bit here. Our most precious truth, comfort, revelation, guidance come when we personally commune with the divine. Spiritual truth and light come from understanding who God is in creation and the universe. For the children of God, platforms and technologies cannot substitute for authentic divine connection and relationship. And then he quotes President Nelson, who said, the privilege of receiving revelation is one of the greatest gifts of God to his children. And AI is not set up to ever do that. And there's a lot of other really, really good things there. But one of the things that segues me to is this current battle about who we are in society. Mm-hmm. And so I'll look to address these kinds of issues in the books that I write. So one of the books I'm working on right now is science fiction, and they're dealing with some artificial intelligences that are really, really advanced, right? And so you get to talk about some of these issues. And so I'm taking advantage of that, right? And in the way I talk about them. But I think about, Satan is really trying to confuse us, and especially our youth, about who they are as sons and daughters of God and what that really means, right? And what it really means is that you have unlimited potential, absolutely unlimited, and that you have heavenly parents. And this is one of the places we really diverge from mainline Christianity, right? But it makes so much sense. We have a heavenly father and a heavenly mother, right? And they love us intensely, more than we can possibly imagine. And they see us for who we really are, and they see our potential, and they see how we prepared before we came to this earth to handle all of the things we're being faced with. And there's some really tough challenges, right? But we prepared for those, and we have those parents behind us, and we have so much potential. And Satan wants to tell us that's not true, and that you're not even a man or a woman. You're just a thing. That's what Satan's trying to get us to believe. Mm-hmm. AI is a better thing than you are. You're just a thing. And now we've created better things, and you're no longer that great, right? Well, if he can get us to adopt that sort of attitude, we're not going to achieve much. We're not going to help each other much. We're not going to love each other much. And we're just not going to do things, right? We're just going to kind of give up and lay over and die. Remember when in the final battles of the Nephites, they didn't lay over and die, but they wanted to fight for their lives, but their lives weren't worth much. They cursed God and were willing to die, right? They just they were so far away from God at that point. They would go ahead and fight, partly because the bloodlust was upon them, right? And that's a real thing. but it was all hopeless. And we certainly don't want to get to that point. And the Lord is helping us not get to that point. There's so many people rising up and sharing these kinds of messages with us now. I'm so impressed with so many of them, not just within the church, but outside the church, people who are really just putting together some fantastic messaging and reaching so many people about who you are and who Christ is and what your relationship to God should be like. And I likened it here recently. So what's his name? Kevin Young, the BYU men's basketball coach. He shared a message with his players the other day. And he said, champions are those who can do the basics of basketball exceptionally well and on a consistent basis. They do the basics really, really well. And that's how they win championships. And obviously that's a combination of talent and practice. You have to have some of both, right? You can't just be talentless and become an NBA great. But so you have to have some talent, but you have to really work hard at it and become so good at the basics of basketball, the basics of dribbling and passing and shooting and some of the defensive basics and the defensive awareness and all of the conceptual, awareness of what's going on the court. You have to get really good at those basics, right?
Right.
And then you can become a champion. And that's the same for us. We need to be really good at prayer. We need to be really good at studying the scriptures. We need to be really good at attending to our church duties and at serving people and at taking advantage of opportunities for service that come our way that just pop into existence in front of us, right? We have to get good at that stuff. That's the basics. And if we get good at that, and here's where the analogy diverges, right? In the NBA world, only one team becomes champion, right? They're the ones that are better at those basics than anybody else.
Right.
In the Lord's economy, if all of us get really good at those basics, we can all become champions. Mm-hmm. All of us. And so it's really good to have the opportunity as a writer to express some of that in what I write, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. And even in my day job, if you will, my part-time job with a company in Chicago, I can incorporate a lot of those principles in everything I do and how I treat people, how I approach problems, how diligent I am. All those sorts of things, right, can apply. And I do get a lot of people, asking me, well, how did you come up with that? Or how did you do that? Or how did you, lead us through that problem, right? And it's just, we just apply these basic lessons and we view people with the right perspective. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stop rambling now before I
I love it.
Another one. So
this is it's fascinating just to hear some of the things you're talking about. Like, I can really resonate with the AI making you feel like you're not important, because you can start to feel it already, and AI isn't even that smart yet. But the more we start to rely on it, the more we don't have to think so much. And I can see us becoming more and more dependent on AI to the point where it does affect our personal work, right? Because if we think, it's smarter than us, or it's, I can see how it could definitely affect your self-worth and change the way we look at our divinity.
And for Satan, it's a two-pronged attack. He's attacking not just the individual with issues around AI and lots of other things too, right? So other issues too, pornography is a big one. He's attacking the individual that way. He's also attacking families that way. But that's the other prong, is the attack on the family. So he's attacking the individuals and he's attacking the families because the individual and the family are really symbiotic, right? We need families. And family is the most powerful structural unit in the universe. It really is. And if he can destroy individuals and families, then in his mind, he wins. He wins it all. I think, my personal opinion, for some reason, I think Lucifer still believes he can win. I don't know what that means exactly, but somehow he still thinks he can win. And he can't. But that's what he's trying to do. And I remember, I recorded this. I wrote it down or I put it in a spreadsheet. Wrote it down is kind of our way of saying I put it in a spreadsheet today, right? It used to be you'd write it down on a piece of paper.
Right.
So she gave a talk, Julie B. Beck gave a talk to seminary and institute teachers back in August 4th of 2009. I had a hard time finding this. And in fact, I used AI to find it. And at first, and I was using Grok, which is what X uses. And at first it got it wrong because it gave me what it thought was the answer. And I was like, that doesn't sound right, because it had a couple of things that just didn't match up. Because it was saying it had come from General Conference, and then it gave a March date. And I was like, yeah, that's not General Conference. So, or not normally, right? I mean, there could be the weird exception. Right. So I did a little more research and I said, nope, you're wrong. It was here. I found it. And they said, oh yeah, you're right. Here it is. But anyway, she gave this address to seminary and institute teachers, and it was printed in the March 2011 Ensign, and that's where it had gotten the March date. But she gave the address in August 4 of 2009. And she said, we also face the problem that we read about in Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Public policies are being made every day that are anti-family. And the definition of family is changing legally around the world. Pornography is rampant. For those who create pornography, their new target audience is young women. Parents are being portrayed as inept and out of touch. Anti-family media messages are everywhere. Youth are being desensitized about the need to form eternal families. We see how this can happen when we read the words of Korihor, the Antichrist. Quote, thus he did preach unto them, leading away the hearts of many, causing them to lift up their heads in their wickedness, yea, leading away many women and also men to commit whoredoms, unquote. Satan knows he will never have a body. He will never have a family. So he targets young women who will create the bodies for the future generations. Korihor was an antichrist. Antichrist is anti-family. Any doctrine or principle our youth hear from the world that is anti-family is also antichrist. It's that clear.
Wow.
Powerful stuff, right?
Yeah.
Powerful.
And that was what year?
2009, she said that.
Wow.
August of 2009.
That is like spot on.
A few years ago, I met somebody who is LDS. Her name is Kimberly Ells. And I had read something, I think she'd written for the Federalist, which is kind of an online news source. And then I found out she'd written this book called The Invincible Family, how the global, let's see, what's the Invincible Family, how the war on, or how the attempt to crush motherhood and fatherhood can't win, something like that. And so I decided I'd read this book. And she has worked with Family Watch International, and they've interfaced with various UN agencies. By the way, fair warning, there are a lot of people working in UN agencies who are downright evil. And they are working hard to destroy the family. Now, there are good people working in the UN too, but there's a lot of really bad people working in the UN trying to destroy the family so that the state can take over everything, because in their minds, they think, like Satan did, that the state is the one who can do a better job than the family can of raising people and teaching them how to be good people, right? And that's just completely antithetical, right? And that's Antichrist. But she wrote this fabulous book, and I've since gotten to talk more with her. And she's spoken at the UN herself now. She's been on and done a long form interview with Tucker Carlson. She did one with Dr. Ben Carson on his podcast. So she's gone on to do a lot of things. She also there's a new thing called the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. So if you go to arcforum.com, you can learn a little bit about that. And it was started by a group of people, and they do an annual conference in London. And these are pretty high-powered people that are more conservative leaning and more Christian leaning, but not all Christians and not all conservatives. And they do some really interesting things. And I've been watching some of those talks, and I watched a fascinating one by, I think her name is Catherine Burblesing, and she's the headmistress of what is purported to be the most difficult primary school in England, or whatever they call them, primary school or secondary school. So it's like a high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she gave a fabulous talk about, how they teach their students about responsibility and about principles and, cause and effect and all the consequences, and they hold them accountable. And we just don't, we don't see enough of that today like we used to. So anyway, I'm learning lots of things. This has been just a fascinating journey. I'm no longer spending, all of my time in an office in Chicago. I'm getting to do lots of different things, like talk to you guys.
I love that. It's it's interesting to me how broad your perspective is on things, and how we've gone from like one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, but it all feels connected. Like I kind of go back to what you said earlier about how when you're writing books, no matter what type of book it is,
Mm-hmm.
your main thought, something you can't seem to get away from, is spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that, because I feel like a lot of people, they tend to feel like they have to like disconnect their faith with their like career or their education or something like that. Yeah. And I think with in regards to the family and just like Satan destroying the individuals in the family,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, what was this? We were listening to this therapist that was talking, and she said something, I might botch this, but she said something about, for the first time in history, there are more women over the age of 30 who are not mothers. They're not married. They don't have babies.
Yes.
Then there are women who have babies and are married at the age of 30. And it's like, what? Like, what? I mean, I had my last baby at 30. You know what I mean? Like, I was done having babies at 30. And just, it feels to me as a woman, that the things that Satan is really trying to force, other than just pornography and he really is getting women that way, like, oh, you should be free, you should express yourself, and all of these things, right? Yeah. And I'm all for like 100%. Like, I think we as women need to remember that we're not just wives and we're not just moms, that there's a whole different side of us that's just a woman. Right. And so I think career, education, personal goals, hobbies, interests, like stuff that's just you, just for you, it's so, so important. Otherwise you end up losing yourself, and then you're not as good of a wife or mom either. And it gets things murky when you just put all of your eggs into one identity, right? Like one part of your identity. But I have noticed that there are just a lot of things out there that are talking to women about how you can do it all yourself. And I'm like, but you really, like, maybe for a short period of time, but you can't do it as well as what you would be able to do it if you had a partner who's working with you of the opposite gender, who can bring to the table all these different perspectives and responsibilities, and I don't know, just anyway. So it just,
one of the things that we learn about the priesthood through Joseph Smith that we still haven't fully grasped yet is that the power of the priesthood can only achieve great things when a man and a woman are cooperating together. When men and women are working together, that's when the priesthood power is fully evident, right? That's why we have a Heavenly Father and a Heavenly Mother. Heavenly Father couldn't have done it himself. Heavenly Mother couldn't have done it herself, right? All of this is the result of men and women working together, all of it, right? That's what the priesthood is about. It's not about who holds a position and who has what keys. It's about men and women working together to access the powers of heaven. That's really what it is. And Joseph tried to teach us that, and we're still learning.
Yeah. There was an interesting thing I heard the other day, and I didn't verify it, so fact check me, I guess. But someone brought up, they were talking about the priesthood and how there's this this belief in the church that the priesthood is only meant for men. Like, men will only ever be the ones that do all the priesthood things, like preparing sacrament, passing sacrament. But supposedly back in the early days of the church, women prepared the sacrament.
Sure.
Right. And like, if you talk about going into the temple or something like that, like
Mhm.
there are blessings that are being given in the temple by women. Right. So there are things that are done with priesthood power by women. It's right now, the roles are not spread as wide and as far as what some people would like them to be. But Heavenly Father's smart. And I think there's a reason for that. And it's because, men need to learn one thing and women need to learn another thing.
Right.
And
Right. And we are all men or women, right?
Mhm.
But we don't all fit in, a nicely defined basket, if you will, right? Or bucket. There's infinite personalities, right? There's lots of crossovers in terms of likes and dislikes and personality types and things like that. We're just not all the same, right? And that's one of the things. So you may have heard of Chris Elston. He also goes by the moniker Billboard Chris. And he's been on this crusade, if you will, to stop childhood mutilation. So that is children, being kind of coerced. They really are being coerced. They're children, and they're being coerced into permanently altering their bodies because they're being taught that, no, you're really not a boy, you're a girl, or you're not a girl, you're a boy. And then they just get into, and they start taking these hormones and they start having surgeries. And you listen to some of these heartbreaking stories from the detransitioners. But anyway, Chris Elston is trying to get people to leave the kids alone, right? There's nothing wrong with them. They're beautiful as they are, and they just have lots of different types of personalities, right?
Right.
And so don't let them grow up, right? Let them grow up. And Heavenly Father looks at us that same way. He wants us to grow up, and he lets us make our own choices, and we have the power to make those choices, right? Doctrine and Covenants 58, right? He tells us to, take responsibility for doing good things, achieving much good, use our own will to do that, right? Because the power is in us. That's what we earned in the pre-existence. We fought to have that power of agency, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to let us grow up and then make our choices. And we need to let our children grow up and they can make their choices, right? We're going to teach them as best we can, and they're going to make their choices. And those choices, will determine their destiny, will determine, where they go after this.
Yeah. It reminds me of Vinnie Tolman when he was on here. He talked to us.
Yeah.
He has this quote, and he says, life is a classroom, not a courtroom.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to come here and feel like we have to get every single thing, like every decision justified. And we did this for this reason, and we're like going to be judged. No, it's a learning. We're supposed to experience things. We're supposed to learn. We're supposed to grow. We're supposed to be awkward in some of our choices and be wrong in some of our choices. And like, how else are we supposed to learn to be more like Heavenly Father and to really reach our full potential if we don't learn, right? Like if we don't actually experience things and we don't make those choices and we let other people choose for us what we need to do and how we need to do it and where we need to be and what it needs to look like, So.
Yeah, and we need to learn the courage to stand for truth, right? We need to learn truth, and then we need to find the courage to stand for it, right? And that's hard. And again, going back to The Chosen, I'm just so impressed with how well they've put that all together. And Christ himself tells us many times that the world will hate us. And I mentioned to you before we started the show that I just finished reading a book called When Culture Hates You. And it's by a non-LDS Christian lady. And she talks about that, right? There are these issues out there today, and Christianity is hated by much of the world because of some of these issues. But they hated Christ, right? Because he told them the truth. He had perfect compassion. And part of that perfect compassion was teaching people the truth and holding them accountable for their choices, right? Because he knew who they were and what they could achieve if they could learn the truth and then learn to stand boldly for that truth and make the kinds of choices that would then lead them closer to their Father in heaven and to the power that he has.
Right. And I think the cool thing that it's cool about Christ doing that. It's something sad that we don't remember. He did that, and he continued to love them where they were at.
Yes, he
He
did.
continued to love them where they were at. He continued to help them in the ways that he could help them. He didn't like berate them, and he didn't ostracize them, and he didn't just say, well,
Absolutely. Yeah.
go mess up, do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
good luck with that. I'll come back and say, I told you so. Like, it was never that.
And that's harder for us sometimes, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's a little harder for us, but we need to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
We're like, taking over the conversation. Scott, go.
So this has been a really interesting conversation. We talked about a lot of different things. I'm wondering, I mean, you've had your career in finance. You've kind of gone into this second career into writing. And you mentioned how the gospel was kind of interwoven into everything you do. I just turned 50 this last week, so I've been thinking about
Death,
my legacy. Yeah, right. And so, what are now that you've been semi-retired for a few years and you've written all these books, what do you think about legacy or enduring to the end? What are some of your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
I don't have a lot of thoughts about legacy. I really don't, because I think what the Lord is trying to help us do is think forward to what his promises mean for us in the future. And that's where our focus should lie, right? So remember, he talks about, treasures on earth versus treasures in heaven. And if we're focused on what our potential is, what we can achieve, I guess legacy becomes part of that, but I don't think about it much, because I'm trying to think more about, okay, how do I utilize some of the talents and opportunities that I have to help people, because the ultimate goal is for us to get to a different place that we don't fully understand yet, but that is so amazing and wonderful, and we feel it. We catch glimpses of it, and we feel how important it is. That's real. That's a real thing. Neil A. Maxwell talked about that. Some of these inklings that we'll get, not just about the future, but also he talked about inklings from the pre-existence, from the premortal existence too. But I think that's where my mind mostly is. And at the end of the day, here's another thing I think about. We're promised in Luke, and we're also promised, I don't remember where in the Book of Mormon, that, eventually everything's going to be known. Nothing's going to be hidden, right? Mm-hmm. So all of these Gadianton robbers that are running around in high places, and President Nelson warned us about that back in 2016, about all of the evil in high places that exist in society. All these people who think they can hide everything from God, they can't. It's all going to get exposed, everything. And so I think about that personally too. I'm like, okay, so my family is going to know everything about me, right? Past and present, right? They're going to know everything. And I need to be working toward a place where that's okay. I know that I've done bad things in the past, right? That I've tried to repent of. And I'm trying to work toward a place where I'm comfortable that I've repented, and I know where I am, and I know where I want to be, and I know how to get there. And I feel like I'm doing my best to get there. And then all that other stuff, all the legacy stuff, I don't think it matters. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That may be a counterintuitive answer, but that's kind of how I think about it.
Okay. So it sounds like you're more focused on just making the best of the journey that you're on, and not really thinking about it.
And like I'm still figuring it out.
Becomes your legacy.
Right. It does. The way other people will look at it, right? I'm still figuring it out, like you guys. We're all imperfect. We're all struggling. We're all trying to learn from each other, which is again why I enjoy these kinds of conversations, because we all get to learn together. We all get to help each other. We reinforce each other. Satan hates these kinds of conversations. He does not like us doing this, by the way, because we reinforce each other. and we help each other. We can figure out how to get from point A to point B in ways that maybe we didn't think were possible.
Mm-hmm. I had a thought when you were talking about just how everything's going to be made known, right?
Yes.
And on the one hand, that can be scary if you have a lot of things in your past that
Sure.
you're not proud of.
Sure.
On the other hand, I like to think for me, and doing this podcast has been a huge eye opener for me over the last 3+ years. In being able to have different guests on who share their stories, share their perspectives, I have learned that every single person has so much that has happened to them.
Yes.
They've had so many experiences, good, bad, and otherwise, so many different relationships.
Mhm.
Like every human being is so complex that there is no like black and white, like you're good or you're evil. Like we're all both, and how did someone get to this point? And just because you would have made a different decision,
Yeah.
well, it's because you had a different experience beforehand. Like you had different knowledge when that decision was being made, whatever else. And so I kind of like the idea of everybody knowing everything, because I feel like it's not going to be, I don't feel like there's going to be as much shame. I almost feel like it's going to be like a burden released off of our shoulders where we're like, oh, now we don't have to try to defend ourselves or explain ourselves. We don't have to carry this like this guilt, or this shame or this remorse or this disgust with ourselves. Like we just get to know that everybody gets to know everything and they're going to understand why we made those choices.
You're
and
right.
They're going to be so proud of us for being like, you got over this. These things happened to you and this way, and you did all this good stuff. Like, how amazing are you? I mean, I just feel like we're going to have so much more love for each other and just a complete understanding and knowledge of all the things that, how can we, I don't know. That's my personal opinion.
You're right. It's all a matter of perspective. And oftentimes we are our own worst critics, right? And we unfairly paint ourselves in a negative light a lot. We do that, right? Yeah. But we need to get to the place where we have that perspective, like you talked about. Your perspective has changed, and God bless you both for doing this podcast, because there are so many great stories out there, and I can see how your perspective has been changed a little. And now you say, "Oh, okay, well, gosh, I'm not judging this person. I mean, they went through some hard things. They did some bad things, but they went through some hard things, and they're trying to get back on the right path. And I respect that, right? And then you start to figure out that that's the way people are going to look at you too, like you just said. So I love that. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's definitely made me personally kind of approach people and situations in more of a curious manner and not a judgy manner.
Gotcha.
So when people are doing things that I just totally don't agree with, I have a tendency to sort of naturally go to the curious, like, I wonder what got them to that point. Like, I wonder what happened to them to make them feel like this is okay. And you kind of have this like little like inkling of compassion, still being protective of yourself or your family or whatever else. But it's definitely, I don't know. It's different, and it feels like you don't have to carry so much weight because you don't have to judge.
Sure.
Is the great thing, right? Like that's not our job. We don't have to decide in the end who's good and who's not, and where people are going. We've got to love them and keep trying to be as good as we can be on our own. And
can I share another interesting point of contact with you? So I was listening to the Follow Him podcast by John By the Way and Hank Smith. And they had a guest on, and it was Whitney Johnson, and she is the CEO of Disruption Advisors, and she used to work with Clayton Christensen, who wrote The Power of Everyday Missionaries, right? And he was a big business guru at Harvard. And in that, and so I thought, and she mentioned some really interesting things, and I thought, oh dang, I want to talk to her. And so I reached out to her as president of LDSPMA. And she responded. And I just went through their website, their contact form, right? So you never know if you're going to get a hit there or not. She responded. We had a really good conversation. And she clued me into something I'd never heard of before that has to do with the arts, right? And it was something that President Kimball wrote back in February of 1978. And I guess the Liahona used to be called Tambuli. Of course, now we call everything Liahona. But and so this appeared in February of 1978 in, I guess, what was called the Tambuli, which was the Liahona. And he talks about the expectations for Latter-day Saints. And you just recently interviewed Steve Piersanti, who's the founder of LDSPMA.
Right.
Mhm.
Remember, he talked to you about how he looked around in the publishing space and he said, gosh, why aren't there more Latter-day Saints here? Because we could do so much good here, right? Spreading the light of the gospel here in the publishing space. We could do more good. We have a lot of talent. And so he started LDSPMA, and that's just amazing that he did that. I really admire Steve and the others that worked with him in doing that. Well, President Kimball set those expectations a long time ago, and he said, look, we have the Spirit. We have we have the gift of the Holy Ghost. We have access to revelation in greater degrees than most of humanity. We should be good at everything. Every scientific endeavor, every other kind of academic endeavor, the arts, everything. We should be really good at it because we have access to the full power of the Spirit, and we know how to comport ourselves to receive greater light and knowledge. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We know how to do that, and so he gave this he put together this great article, and it was just mind blowing to me. One of the things he says at the very end. He says, take a Nicodemus and put Joseph Smith's spirit in him, and what do you have? Take a Da Vinci or a Michelangelo or a Shakespeare and give him a total knowledge of the plan of salvation of God and personal revelation and cleanse him, and then take a look at the statues he will carve and the murals he will paint and the masterpieces he will produce. Take a Handel with his purposeful effort, his superb talent, his earnest desire to properly depict the story, and give him inward vision of the whole true story and revelation, and what a master you have.
Mm.
We have access to so much, and whether it's, artistic endeavors or scientific fields of inquiry or whatever it is, even business, right? Even the boring business world, if you will. My kids always thought it was boring. There's so many things we can do with that kind of power, right? And I love this. I'm going to use this in some of the presentations I give. But she turned me on to this person, the kind of random person I was able to reach out to, and she responded. So that was a lot of fun. So I'm very blessed.
I love that quote. Like, it really, like, you really think about, like, what would it have been like? Like, what could we see and hear and read, and like, what type of science to come out? What type of like medical, like, procedures and pharmaceuticals and like, can you just imagine if you had really faithful members of the church who just knew their stuff and they had the Spirit with them, and they were just really genuinely trying to be like everything that Heavenly Father wanted them to be.
It makes me think
the leadership positions and inventors and architects, and the world would be so good.
It makes me wonder how advanced the Nephite civilization became, and even the Jaredites, because the Nephites had some good long stretches of righteousness, right? And of course, especially after Christ's visit to the Americas, and the Lord would have blessed them in innumerable ways, right? And they had curious people, they had artists, they had engineers, they had technicians, they had people who were curious about the world and how it worked and how to make it better, right? And so I think we're going to discover that they were more advanced than we ever imagined. In fact, when I was writing The Servant of Helaman, I was thinking about those kinds of things, right? And we tend to have these images in our mind of them living in huts, and they're wearing, kind of short robes that are made of animal skins, and they look pretty backward, right? That's kind of the image that we have in our minds. I don't think that was true. And in fact, when I had an editor I was working with, and she's LDS, and I had mentioned them wearing pants, and she was like, pants? They didn't wear pants. And I'm like, well, how do you know that? How would they not wear pants, right? Especially if you subscribe to the North American heartland theory of where most of the Book of Mormon took place. They would have
Right.
endured some cold weather sometimes, right? Why? And pants are not that
That's
difficult
true.
to figure out, right? It's not a great
Right.
technological achievement to come up with pants. So how would the Nephites not have ever been able to figure that out?
Right.
So anyway, it was a fun conversation.
I've never thought of it either, but now I'm like, I probably did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Wow.
Fortunately, they didn't seem to make too many technological improvements in their weaponry, right?
Yeah.
Like we have, right? Now we have nuclear weapons and all kind of biological weapons. Oh my goodness gracious. We've made, arguably, we've made too much progress scientifically in that arena. But.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, let's change gears for a minute.
Okay.
With the LDSPMA conference coming up.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that for people that have the desire to bring their inner artist out, whether it's writing or video or art or any of the other types of things that are involved in creativity. Tell us a little bit about the LDSPMA and how people can get involved in it or go to the conference.
Yeah. So there's two ways to quote unquote be involved in it. You can attend to the conference and enjoy the workshops that we have there and the keynote speakers that we have there. We have some great keynote speakers every year. That's what kept me coming back. I tried it out in 2022 just to give it a shot to see what it was like. And my expectations weren't super high, but it was really, really good. This year, our keynote speakers are Sherry Dew.
What?
Yeah, we'll have Sherry. We'll have Harry and Deborah Bonner.
Oh, we love
Music Space. Yep. We'll have Brad Pello, who's the executive producer of The Chosen. He'll be there speaking to us. And we'll have J. Scott Savage, who's an author. Now he's up to 23 published novels, so that makes me a little jealous. I'm only at 12. So, but he'll be there speaking. And then we have, 8 different tracks of breakout sessions. So, we've got, like I said, writers and artists, all kinds of artists and filmmakers. And of course, we try to teach people about marketing and how to market your work. We're trying to help people network and find different ways, different avenues to share their work with the world, including commercially, right?
Right.
Not everyone's going to be able to turn their artistic talent into a full-time money-making, endeavor. But some can, some do. And then we have other things going on throughout the world, but you can go or throughout the year, I should say, throughout the world. That's the vision, to be able to have things going on throughout the world. That is part of our vision, actually, is to become more of a global organization. We have a few folks from outside the U.S. and Canada, but if you go to ldspma.org, you can learn more about the conference and you can learn more about the different kinds of things that we do. We have that podcast called Called to Create. We have monthly Zoom calls that are interesting, that we learn about different topics. We have some master classes that'll be coming up in the spring that you can sign up for. But the conference is amazing. I mean, if anyone out there is, an aspiring artist, even an established artist, there's lots of good to be had. And we're a little different than a lot of these other industry conferences in that we really do lean in firmly to our faith.
Yeah.
And we certainly invite people who are not LDS to the conference. But while there, they will see that we lean strongly into LDS doctrine and LDS principles, and we want to understand who we are and what our purpose is on the earth and how we can achieve that purpose by working together at things like this conference. It's a really, really good conference. Again, that's what kept me around. Was my great experience at that first conference in 2022. And I think there we had Mowley Jr. Bonner. So one of the Bonner sons was one of the speakers. He's a fabulous dynamic.
That's the one Scott and I went to. And it was, we just were cracking up. And Gerald
Lund was there.
Yep, I remember. Yep.
Jane Clayson Johnson was there.
Yeah, they had some really good ones.
And then there was an author. Was it Rebecca Nielsen? There was an author that spoke as well. Yeah, it's really, really good. I've just been impressed. And we're going to give out some Lifetime Achievement Awards as well. We do that every year. Those are fun.
Nice.
I actually got to help coordinate that this year. We're going to give one out to Don Bluth. I know you've heard of Don Bluth, right?
Yep.
Yep. We're going to give one out to, I should have these names easily memorized here. Carla Kelly, who's an author, and Sally DeFord, who is a kind of a composer,
songwriter,
musician, songwriter,
Yep.
and she has done so much throughout the world, like helping Latter-day Saint congregations by just giving them free music, free stuff they can use. She was really hesitant to receive an award because she just wanted to serve. She just wanted to serve people.
That's really cool.
And, so that's an award well deserved. We didn't want to embarrass her by it. We wanted to recognize, because we want other people to see the example, right?
Right.
See that kind of example, an example of service and excellence, and in what she does. So it's so much fun. There's so many things that we're doing now that are really, really good things, and we do lean into our faith, and that's why I really love it. If we were kind of starting to veer off into the weeds, trying to make sure we were accepted by the world, if you will, all of the Babylonian gatekeepers, it wouldn't be fun for me. It just wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Not only would I have to fill out lots more paperwork, I just wouldn't have fun doing it. It just wouldn't feel the same. So.
Well, why don't you tell everyone when is the LDSPMA going to take place, and how do they get registered for that?
Yep. So it's October 16th through the 18th. So that's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The main conference is Friday and Saturday. And then we have deep dive workshops that we offer on Thursday. And so there's a Monday session and an afternoon session, and there's lots of different options there. And again, you can go find that on LDSPMA.org. And you can sign up for just workshops. If you want to do the deep dive workshops, you can sign up for the conference. You can sign up for the gala in addition to that. So we have an awards gala on the Friday night. And you can sign up for, and there's a couple of other things you can sign up for as well. Fast pitches, like you can sign up to do fast pitch things. And on the Friday morning, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, now I know in the past there's been some options for people to be able to virtually attend different classes. Do you guys?
Yeah, so you can virtually attend as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that is an option.
Perfect.
And I will tell you, and I do want to mention this, the other way to get involved with LDSPMA is as a volunteer, because we're an almost entirely volunteer-run organization. We have about 70 volunteers. We have 2 part-time paid staff that help us with some of the mechanics of things, and they do a lot of good organizational work for us as well. But on Friday morning of the conference, I will be awarding the first annual Molly McKenzie Award for exemplary service to one of our LDSPMA volunteers.
Wow.
And Molly McKenzie became one of our vice presidents back in October, and she lives right close to me. We're in Cache Valley, and she's in kind of the far northern tip of Cache Valley, up in Preston, Idaho. And she's just a fabulous dynamo of a person, really devoted to LDSPMA and its mission, really loved it, and really loved the youth. And she was trying to do a lot with the youth, what we call next gen. And then last Thanksgiving, she fell sick, and she had this fast-acting sepsis of some sort. And within 2 days, she was dead. She died. And it just shocked us all. Obviously, shocked her family and shocked the rest of us. And we decided we were going to create this award in her honor, because she was so good at volunteering her time and her energy to this organization. So we're going to do this annual award, the Molly McKenzie Exemplary Service Award, and give that out to a volunteer every year. And we started taking nominations at the beginning of this month, and we'll stop taking them on the 15th. And then we're going to, as a board, we'll choose somebody, and then I'll get to make that award. And I think her husband will be present for that.
I guess not teary-eyed.
Now I'm going to
tear up.
He's going to be present when we give out the award, I think. So
I bet that'll be so sweet. Thank you, Mike. I thought we weren't crying on this one.
I know.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything that you'd like to leave with listeners today? Any last thoughts or anything before we wrap up?
No, just keep trying to get better at those basic things that Heavenly Father has told us we need to get better at. Obey the commandments and get better at prayer and get better at your scriptures, and He'll help you figure out what your purpose is. There are a lot of people out there who feel like they don't have much talent, they don't have much purpose. They're just, why are they even here, right? Mm-hmm. And the Lord can help you figure that out. He really can. No matter how hard your struggles are, turn to Christ, and He can help you figure that out. You're a lot more powerful than you think you are, and He'll help you realize that. And then He'll help you figure out how to channel that. Once you've realized it, then you have to figure out how to channel it so that you can kind of keep the wheel spinning. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The energy going. Because it's easy to get kind of bogged down again. Because life is life, right? I mean, the food doesn't grow on trees inside our houses that we can just sit around and eat, right? It's hard. Life is really hard. And so we need to keep that wheel going and let Christ help us, continually help us. And He will. He's there. He's active. He's so active every day. We may look at an aspect of our lives or in our community. We live in Richmond, Utah, and I was just made ward mission leader. And, a lot of people think, well, this is Richmond, Utah. There's not very many non-members here to begin with. And, they've probably all gotten sick of us LDS people anyway. So, what could be really going on in this part of the vineyard? I guarantee you there's a lot going on. The Lord is actively working everywhere, all the time. And in fact, as proof of that, I literally was set apart 2 weeks ago, and I was invited to attend a ward council. The ward mission leader is not part of the ward council anymore, but I was invited to come to one. And then literally last week, somebody in our ward boundaries, in our little ward boundaries in Richmond, Utah, they're small ward boundaries, not like Illinois where we had huge ward boundaries. Mm-hmm. Somebody had responded to a Facebook ad from the church and said, I would like the missionaries to come by and visit me.
Nice.
And I got the notification. The missionaries got the notification, and I got the notification. I was like, wow, it's happening everywhere. The second coming is real. It's happening. We may not know when, and I can't understand all of the fabulous computations people make about prophetic timelines. I don't get that stuff. But it's near. President Nelson has told us it's near. Get ready. Ready for the second coming. And part of that is just we have to get good at the basics. We just have to get good at the basics and understand who we are and let Him help us, and He will.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Mike. And this was just a really good conversation. I know it was a little different than our normal format where we have like a story and whatever else, but I loved it. I have a lot of good little nuggets I'm going to take away and go right down.
Yeah, put on my own I hope I didn't ramble too much.
No, not at all.
No, I get off and going, and sometimes that's a 2-mile race. So
we're all good.
I think you gave us a lot of good insight and advice and things to think about that we don't. You didn't give us the traditional quotes or answers. You actually gave us some things that we don't hear very often or have never heard before. So yeah, I agree with Alisha. I think there's some really good takeaways from this, and we really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. We all need to keep learning, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Keep learning.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming on here today. And thank you to our listeners, guys. Remember, if you guys have a story, or even a topic, Scott and I are pretty flexible. So if there's something that you just feel really passionate about, you feel like maybe it can be shared on our podcast, reach out to us. You can head over to latterdaylights.com and fill out the contact form on our website, or you can email us at latterdaylights@gmail. No, wait. Yeah, that's our latterdaylights@gmail.com. I have too many emails that I have to remember sometimes. And we would love to be able to hear from you guys and maybe get something scheduled. So.
Awesome. Thank you both. This was wonderful.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And thanks again for everyone to tuning in, and we'll see you next week with another episode from Latter Day Lights. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.